Welcome back to the Kentucky Hot Wheels video series. For this project, I'll be taking this 1/32nd scale VW bus that I received in a lot, and making it look like it's been sitting in a barn for about 30 years. As you can see, it's had a pretty rough life already, so we'll start by disassembling it and remove all of the unnecessary bling. I'm pretty sure this has been sitting outside in a sandbox for at least a year. It's packed with play sand. I'll try to keep all of the bits and pieces organized until I'm ready to use them again. All of those gaudy speakers and accessories will have to go. I'll use this sanding wheel to remove the tags for the unwanted parts. Be sure to wear proper eye protection. You don't want any of this flying debris to land in your eyes. With all of the bits and pieces removed, I'll sort out what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to discard. I'll fill in these holes with some epoxy a bit later. They don't have to be perfect, as this bus has been sitting for years and has collected a lot of trash and junk. Next, I'll remove the windows. Now I'll remove what's left of the pillars that secured the windows. They won't be needed later. There's one last piece of window that has to be removed. It's really installed in a weird way, so I'll have to do some trimming as well. The headlights will be the last items removed. I'll give everything a quick inspection, then decide what direction I'll go with. I definitely don't want the top half of the bus to be painted this silvery gray color, so I'll paint it a more traditional white. I may keep the bottom of the bus its current yellow color, I just need to give it some more thought. The paint job doesn't have to be perfect, there's still a lot of aging to do. Now it's time to fill in those holes. I'll be using some JB Weld because it's cheap, fast, and easy. I'll apply painter's tape to the backside of the holes, mix up a batch of the JB Weld, then fill in the holes. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, it'll all make more sense later. Once the JB Weld has cured, I'll give it a rough sanding with the Dremel and a small sanding wheel. Again, I'm just knocking down the high peaks, it doesn't have to be perfect, a lot of this will end up covered anyhow. I thought about keeping the interior black, but I think I'm going to go with a tan color this time. As with my previous video, I'll be building some barn walls to house the bus. I'll start with these popsicle sticks and start gluing them together. Now I'll repeat the process for the end panels. Again, this doesn't have to be precise, this is supposed to look like a weathered, old barn. That should pretty much do it for the barn walls. It's a lot like the one that I built for the 32nd scale beetle diorama. And as you can see, I decided to go back to the black interior. I think it looks much better. A couple of days ago, I stained and painted the walls of the barn. I did this off camera as I was pressed for time. Basically, I gave the walls of the barn a spritz of flat black paint, a spritz of light gray paint and a subtle spray of hunter green. I then finished with a few touches of ebony stain. I'm very pleased with the way it turned out. Now it's time to start on the base. First, I'll give the surface of the base a light sanding to help the glue adhere to the base properly. Next, I tape around the edges of the base with painter's tape. This will keep the glue from running down the sides of the display. Now I'll apply a liberal amount of white glue to the base and start applying a little sand and sifted backyard dirt. Once a good base of dirt has been applied, I'll give everything a spritz of isopropyl alcohol, then saturate the dirt with my mixture of 3 parts water and 1 part white glue. While the glue is still nice and wet, I'll go ahead and place the barn walls. I'll let it sit for about 25 minutes to let the glue tack up a bit, then remove the tape. It's important to remove the tape before the glue cures. With the tape removed, I'll let the base sit for a day or so in the warm garage to allow the glue to fully cure. Now it's time to start working on the fun stuff. It's time to start on the interior. What do most people do who have an abandoned vehicle on their property? They usually fill it with junk. I'll start by adding some old tarps to the inside of the bus. To do this, I'll mix some water with a touch of white glue, then some blue food coloring. Soak some commercial grade paper towels in it, and just like that, we'll have an instant tarp. There is no right way or wrong way to do this. Just play around with it until you reach the desired look that you're going for. I'll add just a little of the backyard sifted dirt to the tarps while they're wet. Then I'll set it aside for a day or so to fully cure before adding anything else. After curing for a day or so, you end up with something like this. It's a pretty good representation of an old tarp that's gotten damp and is now growing some mold. Next, I'll give all of the interior its first layer of weathering. I'll be using some very fine dirt from the backyard that's been sifted. Once I've applied a liberal amount of the dirt, I'll seal it with some matte clear paint. Now it's time to reconnect the chassis with the body. The chassis was given a good coat of flat brown, then once connected with the body, everything was given a spritz of light gray and OD green flat paint. Some logs were created for the body and chassis to sit on. Once I'm happy with the placement of the logs, I'll test fit some different materials to use as a tarp to cover the top of the bus. Now it's time to start adding some rust. As I've mentioned in previous videos, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. There are 100 different techniques, it's just a matter of finding what works for you. I'm going to keep this one simple. I'll use some dark brown acrylic paint, and in some areas, I'll dilute it to help it flow into the lines and grooves. You can use a dry brush to pull the diluted paint down to create streaks in the rust. Once I'm happy with the amount of rust that I've applied, I'll start adding some barn dust using my pastel chalks and some sandpaper. Add as little or as much as you want. Once satisfied, seal it with some matte clear. I'll do the same to the painted foil that I'll be using as a tarp.
We maintain our professional arrangement as you suggest.
Now I'll add some accessories to the display. Some tires, wooden planks and a little greenery should help it pop a little bit. Someday, when I get a nice resin printer, I'll create some more objects for the display. Once the greenery has been applied, I'll give it a spritz of isopropyl alcohol, then seal it with my mixture of 3 parts water, 1 part white glue. Now it's time to set it aside for a few hours to let the glue cure. Lastly, I'll add the wooden planks that I stained to give them some age. For now, we're going to call this one complete. Believe it or not, it's now April the 17th and I started on this project way back in November of last year. Things kept popping up, preventing me from working on it and giving it the attention that it needed. It's not my favorite by a long shot, but for now, it's finished. I do plan to add more decor to the barn walls as I can and spend a little more time on it down the road. As always, if you made it this far, thanks for watching and please take a second to give the video a thumbs up, we'd certainly appreciate it.